So for some of you guys that most everybody on the call, I think Jake might be the only non-client on the call, even though I had a bunch of people reach out to me, send me private messages, say they wanted to be here. They're not here. Happens all the time. But for most of you guys, you heard yesterday, most of you guys were on the call yesterday, you heard I was going to talk about some of this stuff today. And for those that didn't, and maybe you didn't see the post and you're just showing up because you're used to showing up on Wednesdays, I know our Wednesday is normally supposed to be around lead vault, CRM type stuff, that kind of thing. But with a few of you guys coming out next week, and just something that I've been noticing a lot lately, as Roger and I pay attention to not just your guys' data and stuff going on with your different accounts, but as we just study the real estate space and study just the business space in general, I keep noticing this same topic coming up. And that topic is around, I'm doing outreach, I'm doing some form of marketing, right? Non-digital at this point. I'm cold calling, I'm texting, I'm dropping mail, I'm whatever. We've got some agency friends of ours that are like, dude, I'm hitting them in their inbox, I'm hitting them in their DMs, and I'm just not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any response. I'm lucky if I get maybe 1 to 3% of the people actually replying back. Now, how many of you guys have felt like that in the past? You blast out a bunch of maybe direct mail, or you blast out a bunch of texts, you get all excited, right? We're like, cool, I just put out 1,000 text messages. I'm probably going to make something happen out of this. And then it's crickets. Nothing comes back. You get a bunch of people calling you off of maybe your mailings, but it's all calling you to tell you to, you know what, stick it somewhere, go somewhere else. And every time this topic comes up, I always reply back. If I'm talking to somebody, messaging them, whatever the case, I always ask, what do you think the problem is? A, conversion, meaning it just doesn't convert for you. B, the audience, people that you're sending these things to, was it bad data? Or C, messaging. And you guys take a stab. What do you think the overwhelming majority of the time the answer is? A, just won't convert, just doesn't work for me. B, my data was just bad. The people, the information was just bad. Or C, the messaging. What do you think the most common answer is?
I'd say A.
A?
I'll say B.
Victor says B. Anybody else have a thought?
Messaging.
Tony says C.
C.
Anybody else? Another stab?
I feel like people probably want to blame B, but it's most likely C.
Exactly right. It overwhelming majority of the time, it's B. My data sucks. That data was terrible. I didn't get good information. It must have been bad addresses or bad numbers or whatever the case is, right? We always want to blame something. And all you try to blame me right now. When you blame me, you typically do what? Everybody do this. Try to point at me on the screen. But I want you to stop for a second and count how many fingers are pointing at me on the screen and how many fingers are pointing back at you. Where's the majority of the fingers pointing back? At you, right? So we want to blame the data. Oh, RealFlow, it sucked. Oh, the skip tracing company sucked. Oh, this place over here, their information's outdated and old. But at the end of the day, it came down to the message. The message is the overwhelming piece that causes conversions not to happen. And I'll let this load up. Some of you guys have heard me talk about this. I've been talking about it for quite some time. Everybody out there. We're all business owners. We all have an audience. I call that audience our prospects. They're people that we have not done any kind of business with. Whether you're selling a product, whether you're selling a service, you have a bunch of prospects that you're going out there with. And at some point, they need to buy. They either need to buy your product or they need to buy in to your service. They buy into you, right? They buy into how you can help them, something like that. Can we all agree with that? Yes? So they all go through what's called the buyer journey. And everybody that's a buyer, everybody that's a prospect of ours out there starts in what's called a future buyer role. Future buyer meaning at some point, I will do that. Who thinks they can take a stab? What's at the other end of the spectrum? Future buyer, what do you think's down here?
Purchase.
Don't all shout at once.
Purchase.
Say that again, Tony.
Purchase.
The purchase.
To become a buyer.
What's the stage just before they become the buyer and purchase? If this is a future buyer, this would be a what?
Lead.
Ready. A ready buyer. When they reach the end of the buyer journey, they are ready. They are ready to actually do business. Buy the product, subscribe to the service, join the group, right? Sign up for the association, whatever that might be. Easy way to look at what a future buyer is. The future buyer is still trying to decide if they need, what they need, when they might need it. If they need it, what they need, and when they might need it. Notice they haven't thought about what just yet. The future buyer isn't too concerned with one thing that I left out of that. What do you think it is?
Price.
Say it again, Chris.
Price.
Not yet. There's still that's probably a thought. If they need it, what they need it, when they need it. What haven't they thought about?
How are they going to do it?
How and what else?
Why?
No, why would be in there too. I could put why. It's another H word, or sorry, another W word.
When.
Who?
Who? There it is.
Which one?
Who? The ready buyer. Use a different color so it stands out. The ready buyer is ready to decide who and how. Who are they going to do it with? And how's it going to get done? Who are they getting the product from? And how are they getting the product? Who is going to give them the service? How do they actually get where they're trying to go? This making sense so far? Now, here's where the big problem comes in. 99.9% of the time, the person that says my data sucked, my data sucked, my data sucked, or this just doesn't work for me and my business, this type of marketing just won't work, right? 99.9% of the time, those individuals, why they're saying that is they are using language that is suited for the ready buyer, but they're using it where? They're using it on a future buyer. They're using it on somebody that's not quite ready to decide who they want to do it with and how they're going to get it. So what do you think fills the gap here? What's in the middle that if this person was over here, if you guys love my art, you can buy it later. My stick figures are world class. But if this human, if this individual, this prospect is sitting over here on our future buyer side, what fills the gap that gets them from future to ready?
The nurturing.
Nurturing is correct, but what is involved in nurturing? What do we do when we nurture?
Information, education.
Ding, ding, ding. Info.
Mhm.
Remember,
Also
the future buyer
confidence.
is over here trying to decide if, what, when, why. We'll add the why in there. They're just trying to figure this out. And before they're ready to make that choice, they need information that helps answer which questions.
What the hell am I doing?
The who and the how.
Not the who and the how. That's where we also go wrong. This is what's happening. We're using language, trying to feed them information using language that's designed for over here, but we're trying to push it over here to these people, meaning we're trying to use information that tells them about you, about why you, about how you do it, all these kind of things too early on in the relationship. And they're not ready for that just yet. Marie, you're trying to tell me why you'd make an amazing wife and why you'd be the perfect mother to my kids. And I'm just trying to figure out if you're cool enough to hang out with for 3 straight days.
I mean, I do play pool though, so I'm pretty cool.
You see what I'm saying?
She wins, Shawn. She wins.
Marie is kind of cool to hang out with. But I'm still trying to figure out if Chris got the right, end of the deal there. I think she might be too cool for Chris. So the information that we put out, this is our marketing right here. We know we need to give them information. That's why we send them letters. That's why we try to call them. That's why we try to hit them with text messages. That's why we try to do all these things. We try to get them onto a website. We try to put information on a website. We design a landing page. We do video. We do all this stuff around information to help them move this way. But what is 99% of the time the information that we're putting out there revolved around?
What we can do for what we over there.
Yes. How we do it, who we are, why us, why me, pick me, I'm the best, boom, 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 right? When in reality, they need help understanding these type of questions. If you're experiencing XYZ, blah, 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 blah. What are some of the options that are out there? When would be a good time? Why is this important? Why is this beneficial? Why is this option better than this option? Why should you think this over this? And the more we can feed this type of information to them, the faster they go where?
They go to the ready buyer.
They go to these 2 questions right here. They go to, how can you help me do this? How can you help how can you do it when I'm ready for it? Something like that. What All right, who are you and what are you able to do to help me out? I'll give you guys a real life story of this. Monday, I went to play in a golf tournament. I only went because it was a brokerage, real estate brokerage. About 85 realtors out there playing. Is that my audience? Are those my prospects? Absolutely. They're real estate folks, right?
Mhm.
Where did they fall into me just stepping into a country club with 86 other players? Where did they fall in this process?
Future buyers.
They're all future buyers in my eyes. 100% correct. Through discussion, through talking, could some of them be more in the middle of this equation? Could some of them be closer to the ready kind of thing? Yes, but the second I walked in, it was all around. They look like future prospects, future buyers to me, right? Of course, I was branded out. I had the REI Toolbox shirt on, right? Bright yellow or bright green. It almost looks bright yellow. It's almost the color of Lorraine's picture down there when it's in the sunlight. Stands out like crazy. You think that got attention? Heck yes. People start, not to mention, most of these people, they all work together, all from a brokerage. Well, I come walking in with a friend of mine that's part of the brokerage, and everybody's like, oh, I don't know you. What's your name? What do you do? What's this? What's on your shirt? What's that? Where's the natural response in a moment like that? Where do people naturally gravitate to as the business owner? What's the natural answers that we want to bring out?
Mhm.
This type of information. Who I am, how I help, all this kind of stuff, right? Where do you think I spent the majority of my time as I introduced myself and what we do? Where did I guide most of the discussion around?
Future buyer.
Right here.
Yeah.
What are some of the real estate problems that we help with? Why are some of the things that we do helping other real estate folks? When does it make sense for us to work with somebody? Because I'm very clear, especially on the agent side, I'm very, very clear. We're going to solely work only on a real estate agent, what we want out of that. What do they need to be focusing on? Why do they need to be focusing on that? And naturally throughout the day, what do you think eventually started to be asked of me?
How do you do what you do?
How do you guys, how would you work with me? How would you help me? How would you help in my situation? I've tried this in the past. How would you be different? How is what you're talking about different from what I tried over here? Now, obviously, when you're spending a couple hours on a golf course with a bunch of individuals and it's a scramble format and people are drinking and hanging out and it's not really a rush game of golf, do you have time to build that conversation up over 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to eventually get there in one day? Yes. But what if that was I just met them at maybe a social cocktail hour for 1 hour and then left? Do I have enough time to get from here to here in that time frame?
No.
Not if they're just getting started.
I mean, moving from future buyer to ready buyer in that 1 hour social will make you feel good, but you didn't accomplish anything.
Correct. Now that's face to face. Can my first piece of mailing, could my first text message, could my first phone call, hey, this is not to pick on you, Jake, you just happen to be right in the middle of my screen right now. Hey, this is Jake, I want to buy your house. When you don't even know where they're at on the spectrum. That works if they're where?
If they're already a ready buyer.
If they're over here, right? They're getting pretty close and they've already made up their mind they want to sell or need to sell or in a situation and they're trying to decide on who and how they're going to get this done, then absolutely that text message can help convert. But what's the percentage of time that we find somebody at that moment when our text message, our emails, our cold calls, our direct mails, whatever the case, hits them?
Almost zero.
It's about 1 to 3%, which is why traditional conversion is about 1 to 3%. The 97 to 99% of people, oops, still on my, the 97 to 99% of people are on this spectrum.
So Shawn, question for you. And I think I know the answer to this. The $1 million question is, how do you move from a future buyer mentality? When do you know when it's time to move from the info stage to the ready buyer? I mean, there's a lot of probing questions you could ask, and based on the answer, you'll know if their readiness level, so to speak, is ready to go into that buyer mode.
Great question.
Did I set you up good?
Right, there's our buyer's journey.
Right.
Here's the future person, right? We'll call them the future buyer. There's the ready buyer. Chris S. What do I preach about marketing? Multiple what? Multiple what?
Multiple touches, multiple media.
Multiple touches. That's the key part right there. We'll get into the media piece here in a second. So Sal, how do I know when to move them on? Yes, probing questions, specific questions, discussions at different points, right? But the multi-message aspect is I should have multiple phase lines across this piece, meaning I should have information that's designed maybe in my first touch here. But if I'm going to send a second message out to a bunch of people that never responded here, is it probably because the messaging didn't align with where they're at in the process?
Yes.
Maybe it sounded too elementary. Maybe they're beyond this point and they're not, I don't know if this is the right fit yet, right? Maybe you actually have some conversation with somebody. Second, third, fourth, so on and so forth. This is how the multi-message, multimedia comes into play across the buyer's journey. We need to have specific messaging that's going along this journey. Your long-term nurture sequences. You guys have heard me talk about this in the past. Long-term reminder text or follow-up text or emails, these type of things. Somebody that maybe you talked to, they went to a website, maybe they filled out a form, maybe it's just not the best timing right now. We've all counted those individuals, yes? They're still back here.
True.
Maybe here. So I just want to keep feeding them a bunch of information, feeding them knowledge, feeding them the info that they're looking for. Marie, the podcast that you and Liz have been doing, the weekly show, where you're just talking about updates to the Phoenix market. That is in no way, shape, or form designed to get anybody down here to do anything. It is 100% built to show credibility for this stage. Does that make sense, Sal?
Yes.
Does this make sense to everybody else so far? And again, some of you guys are coming out next week. As I told you I wanted to do today. I wanted to get the mind spinning because Tuesday, this is the stuff we're going to start to break down. Where do we have messaging that's pretty good and where do we have gaps?
Well, it's interesting because yesterday you asked those of us that are coming in next week to bring all our marketing materials. And I was looking back, getting ready. I was looking back at letters that we sent out last year. They were shit compared to that. They were terrible. I mean, we just went right into, you're ready to buy, here's who we are. And it was almost like tasting something you didn't like, you know? So obviously there's a method to the madness.
So I'm going to go a little deeper here. Hopefully I don't get too far over the head with some of this. There's really three components that we can focus on with our messaging. Number one, got a good color here. Number one here is the problem. The problem they are having, the problem they are facing, the problem they feel like is what's there, right? The known problems out there in real estate with our people trying to sell. The second one that you can focus on, and I'll take it weight loss for one quick second just to make it make sense. The problem, I'm fat. Problem, I'm unhealthy. Problem, I have diabetes. Problem, I'm lazy. Problem, right? Makes sense from a health standpoint, yes? So what do a lot of health supplement companies, instead of focusing on the problem, they then turn around and say, okay, well, hold on, let's focus on the result. Instead of me putting out a bunch of information to tell Shawn Shawn's fat, let me put out a bunch of information to tell Shawn how we can get Shawn the result Shawn wants, and that's to not be fat, to not be lazy, to not need XYZ, right? But then there's this third layer. And if you can figure out how to design your marketing and go to this level, changes the game. And this third one is how do you spell perceived?
Preceived.
P-E-R. P-E-R-C-I-E-V-E-D.
Okay, there it is. I couldn't remember if it was an S or a C in the middle there.
All
I
right.
stuck at spelling.
What?
If you could focus in on the perceived problem. What do I mean by that? I'm going to go back to the healthcare side for one quick second. Shawn feels like Shawn has a problem because Shawn is fat. That's what the health person would think, right? The health person trying to market themselves. I'm going to market to Shawn because Shawn looks fat. Therefore, Shawn must think he's fat, and I'm going to market messaging to Shawn. But what's the perceived problem in Shawn's mind? Is it that I'm fat? Or is it that I'm an Italian and every male in my family, when they hit the age of about 38, grow the meatball stomach, and no other male in my family has ever been able to get rid of the meatball stomach after the age of 38?
Don't laugh, Chris.
Which one do you think it is?
Absolutely hereditary.
It's absolutely, in my mind, the perceived problem is it's my genetics. It's family history, right? It's family passed down. I don't have hair because my father doesn't have hair, my grandfather doesn't have hair, my uncle doesn't have hair, my grandfather's brothers don't have hair, right? It's a genetic thing. That's why I don't have hair. So if you could market to the perceived problem, if somebody put something in front of me and said, I can get you this result if you have this problem, I can get you skinny even if it's hereditary. I can get you skinny even if every other male in your family's never been skinny. Is that going to catch my attention? 100%. Because in Shawn's mind, that's the real problem, not I'm just fat. Does that make sense? So let's go back real estate for a quick second. Sal, since you've been participating, you keep yourself unmuted. I'm going to let you continue. Who's your avatar?
It's the stressed out, distressed person that doesn't seem to have any help. They're confused. They don't know what to do.
And they're dealing with what type of situation?
Well, let's take a probate or inheritance situation.
Okay. So your understanding of their problem, of what their problem that they think is, right? Your understanding of it is they're stressed, they're confused, don't know what to do, don't know what their options are. Go back to a conversation or a couple conversations that you've had with some people going through probate or an inheritance situation. And what were some of the problems they thought they were facing that maybe you guys didn't notice or catch early on?
They were overwhelmed.
Get more specific.
They would walk into a house that, someone had just passed away, and all the stuff is sitting there from the last day that person was there. And they're sitting there, and literally we've seen people and just stare at the room. They didn't know where to start.
So what was their perceived problem at that moment?
Where do I go? What do I do?
Where do I go?
start?
Chris, do you want to, Chris S., if you feel like chiming in, I see you kind of.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of times for them, what we find their perceived problem is, I don't know what I'm doing in this probate process. 9 times out of 10 of the conversations that we have.
Okay. So they don't know what they're doing.
Correct. In other words, they're not understanding on how the probate process works from almost a legal standpoint.
They didn't understand it, is what you're saying? They didn't understand the legal process?
In other words, yeah, they don't understand what to do in the probate process.
Okay. So a perceived problem there would be confusion around the legal aspect.
Timeline.
Could we probably go as far as saying there was a perceived problem in their mind that this isn't really for them? Like their situation is completely different. There's this perceived problem in their head. Sal, you're saying they walk in, they inherited this thing. It's atrocious wreck. Nobody's even going to want this place. I'm never going to be able to sell this. I'm going to have so much to do to get this thing even ready. Could there be this other perceived problem in the back of their mind? I have to pay for all of this.
I don't even think they're there yet to that point. They're trying to say, what do I do with this property?
Subconscious,
choices?
remember, the
Yeah.
Subconscious is the feeling side.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that they don't necessarily express, but we've got to get into that subconscious end and say, what are those thoughts that they're having? This is why I say, if you can get to this level, if you can figure it out and figure out a marketing message around it, it changes the game. How many of you guys have ever looked at some piece of marketing, heard something, radio ad, whatever the case is, and you're like, holy crap, I feel like they're speaking like straight to me without saying my name? It's because they hit so deep on your subconscious and they got down to this third layer where you had no choice. I was buying shoes. I saw Terry's on here right now. I was buying shoes for our John Muir Trail hike earlier today. And I was going through a bunch of different ones, and there's those ones that I want. And then I was looking at these other ones, and then I was reading a bunch of the reviews. And I swear to God, I landed on this one type of shoe, and I'm reading the reviews, and I thought they wrote the reviews specifically for me. Because 15 reviews in a row said all the things that I'm always thinking about when I think shoes and a lot of miles on my feet. Which ones do you think I ended up buying? Those ones. This is the key right here. If we can get to that perceived piece. So Chris, Sal, I'm using you guys as the example here. They might not have ever expressed these things. But through your experience of doing this, we start thinking, try to think like them for a second. And not just consciously or vocally what's coming out, but subconsciously, what are some of the thoughts that they probably are having that they haven't even shared with you?
I can tell you some.
Let's hear them, John.
Yeah, so they're grieving. They had loved ones that lived in that house and they don't want to walk in there anymore because they have memories. They don't want to deal with all the memories of going through all the boxes and getting stuff out.
Could that
And
be very
then-
stressful?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I've just done it for a year and a half. So, so yeah. So that's the big stuff. And then obviously, like, what are we going to do? What's the process like? We don't have anybody that can walk this, our parents were the ones that always led us through legal stuff or whatever, right? So
that's somebody that's already in it, right?
yep.
So they're a future prospect because, oh crap, I just got smacked with this. I have to deal with it. Is there another layer of this future person that before they even get to that has a completely different perceived problem in their mind?
Right.
Chris, Sal, have you guys heard the phrase pre-probate?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Grandma's on the deathbed, mom's on the deathbed, dad's gonna, kick the bucket anytime soon. And oh crap, we're gonna be dealing with this in the near future.
Yep.
That future prospect's got a completely different perceived problem, right? I can't use messaging like that talks anything about the emotional toll that it might take on having to go in and deal with, grandma's house after grandma left, because grandma's still here. That wouldn't go over very well. But I need to have messaging that's designed, if I'm targeting people that are possibly pre-probate, that's, hey, when grandma leaves, right? When it's grandma's time to go. This goes back to the multiple message, multiple media. We all tracking still, yes? So I want to end with this on the time, and then we can get into maybe some questions here. Before we can even get to this layer, before we can even kind of start to think about perceived problems, we have to really understand the marketing formula. The marketing formula is 3 simple components. Before I write them all, who remembers what they are? I've talked about this so many times, this should be in the back of your mind.
I think one of them is who?
Who, that's the very first one. And we call that our market.
Mm-hmm.
Message.
Message, let's see if you guys get the rest of it. The message is called another name. Almost said it.
The
If
method.
first-
market is who, message is,
You put how for the first one.
sorry, good catch. I got ahead of myself. If market is who, message is,
The method. No.
not the method.
Hmm.
The message is
What?
what we say. Market who, message what comes in the middle. Hint, hint, I had already wrote the
How.
word,
How.
the how. And the how is our, another M word,
Media.
media.
Mark the media.
If we don't understand this one right here to a granular level, who we're even talking to. And when I say granular, you should be able to tell me that probate Smith, probate Steve, probate Betty, you should be able to tell me everything about probate Betty. How old is she? Where does she live? What kind of income does she have? How many kids does she have? Is she married? Is she not married? Where does she consume information at? What kind of occupation is typically in that you know, in your market? What are her interests? What are her hobbies? Is it a tight-knit family? Is it not a tight-knit family? Do they live in the area, not live in the area? Everything about probate Betty. The more granular you can get that, the who becomes really easy to figure out what are the perceived problems that they're having, even though they're not saying it. The other thing it allows is if I really understand the who, depending on that audience, could they be in a different phase of the buyer journey already?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Chris, Sal, you guys could say, hey, future buyers, these are actually pre-probates. Maybe this is just started. I mean, they're just getting started in the probate piece. So on and so forth. But it's hard to map this out until we really understand who. Who is it? And for some of you guys, you're going after multiple different types of individuals. I look at someone like Victor. Victor, you're trying to do real estate agent and you're trying to do real estate investor. Two totally different who's, right? On your agent side, what do you predominantly try to go after, buyer or seller? You want listings or buyers?
Right now, I want listings.
So the avatar on the agent side is listings, but we got to go a lot deeper than that. What age range of somebody listing do you want? What areas of the listings do you want? What style of home listings do you want? What price range of listings do you want? When I can nail those down, now I can start asking, what's the demographics of people that match that? What's the psychographics of people that match that? Now, the good friend of mine that at the golf tournament that eventually asked how we can help them, give you an idea, he only wants to focus on area code or zip code 91311, which is our zip code. He wants to be known as the go-to real estate agent in the 91311 zip code. And that's the only area he wants to focus on. And he doesn't want to touch any property that's under $1 million. Well, if I'm going to help him find listings, now I can start to say, okay, where in 91311 are properties over $1 million? What type of properties are over $1 million? What's the income range of people over that are living in those areas? What are the type of careers of the people that are living in that area? Does that make sense so far, Victor? Because when I know that, can I now then come down and design the media? You know, Chris, Sal, if you guys are going to, let's say, maybe design a marketing campaign to pre-probate, and we're actually going to the individual that when they go would have to have probate happen for their stuff, meaning I'm going to go after the elderly father, mother, grandmother. Does that drastically change the type of media that I can use?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to do TikTok ads to my 86-year-old grandmother. I actually would consider doing Sunday newspaper advertising because she still waits at her door for Sunday newspaper. TV ads would work better for that type of avatar. Mailers would work better for that type of avatar. Not so much forcing them to go to the website and do XYZ. But what if Sal fits that category and I'm targeting Chris? Because Chris is going to have to deal with it all. The Sunday newspaper work for Chris? And that avatar?
Mm-mm.
Heck no. I'm going to need to put signs up in a gym to get Chris's attention. When I have media in place and I know what makes sense for the outlet, then I can come down and come here to the message. And hint, hint, wink, wink, this is the perceived problem for most entrepreneurs. They think their messaging sucks. They can't figure out how to get a good message. They don't know how to make good messaging. So if I was going to market a webinar, let's say, to a bunch of entrepreneurs, oh, wait, didn't I just do that today? Didn't I tell you all to be on this call because you probably have felt like your messaging doesn't convert? Why? Because this is the perceived problem when it comes to the end of perceived. I remember what Victor said, and I think Chris C, you said it earlier on. We blame the data, we blame the outlet, we blame the action, but secretly we know it's this other thing. We just don't want to admit it, right? But I put marketing out saying, hey, if you've ever felt this way, because I know you have. You ever felt this way, I'll help you fix this problem that you say you have, and I'll show you how to get the result. And when it was all said and done, what's the real answer? Market message media. Market message media. Who, how, why? Who, how, what? So if I said, hey guys, jump on this call today, I'm going to go over the three key components of the marketing formula. How many of you would find that exciting and be like, ooh, I want to be on that call? Two. I see two hands out of everybody that's on. The majority of people will be like, eh. Yeah. Terry, you got a question? I see your hand.
Yeah. So pre-marketing for whatever those guys are going after. So would that be more like trying to get an ad on a bingo card, something along those lines?
That would be a I'm laughing with you, Sal, because I'm envisioning a bingo card and like Terry's face in the middle of it going, I'll solve your probate problem before probate or something.
Exactly.
Who even plays bingo anymore?
A lot of people, trust me. And I've been looking on trying to how to get to the printers that do those cards to figure out how to put something in there.
I mean, bingo would be a form of media. Bingo card.
So that's pre-probate. You're trying to get in front of probate Betty before probate Betty dies?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
You know, probate Betty's about to stamp the winning number and afraid she's going to have a heart attack. She needs to call somebody. Better call Terry.
Or in front of pre-probate Betty's family that can convince her to do it.
I don't know if the bingo card works for that, Tony, because is pre-probate Betty's family coming and playing bingo with her?
Nope.
If we did a bingo thing, we're already called buzzards and you know what, and man, that would be tough.
Yeah, but if they have a spouse, I mean, I don't know, maybe, you know,
No,
who knows? But
again, does it sound good? And this is where we all go wrong.
It's
It
an
sounds
idea.
good, right? Sounds
an
like it
idea.
could possibly work. But what do you think I'm going to ask? Does it fit the avatar? Meaning in the Carlsbad area in San Diego County, Terry, is bingo a big thing? Are a lot of elderly people going out and playing bingo? Sounds like they
How
are.
many Indian casinos do we have in San Diego County?
So that's where I'd always go back, is there. And if it works, if it fits the avatar, if the person that avatar is the type that's out there at those casinos and everything, then absolutely, it might be worth pursuing that as a media source and testing.
So Shawn, going back to your buyer's journey real quick, on the future buyer level, is that where we can talk about maybe case studies might be too early, I think, now thinking about that.
Where do you think case studies come into play?
It's probably later on, beyond the info step. Yeah.
Case studies, if I had to draw kind of a spot for it, case studies are really good for this end.
Mm-hmm.
They know they want it. They know they need it. They're ready to make the decision. They're just trying to decide who they're going to do it with. Chris knows he wants more weights. He knows he wants this other system in the garage. He's just trying to decide if it's this company or this company or this company stuff he's going to get. That's where case studies come in. Case studies are also reviews, testimonials. It's another form of a case study. It's not as detailed, but if I get Marie telling everybody just how great Shawn is and how amazing Shawn's been for her and how Shawn's helped her like crazy, does anybody really need Marie's results to ultimately make the decision? Does that make sense? We got a couple minutes left. I want to open it up. Does anybody else have any other questions on this? Those of you coming next week, this is how we're going to fix it all. By you showing up. And by you showing up, you fix it. So hopefully those that are coming next week, hopefully that got your head spinning a little bit, give you something to think about through the weekend. Start to get prepped for. For everybody else, I cannot say it enough. Avatar worksheet.
Yep.
Nail that down. Nail the avatar. You should be able to tell me your avatar so clear, it's like you're related to that person. Sound good? Anybody got anything? Here, I'll do this.
I just want to say thanks for